Shalom, my dear friends. Shalom today, the 26th day of the month of Tammuz of the year 5776, corresponding to the first day of the month of August of the year 2016. I apologize for technical difficulties in beginning today's broadcast, and I hope now we'll be able to go forward without a hitch. And yesterday I did explain in my Shavua Tov hookup the new format of my classes, and for those who were not with me yesterday, I will be using my weekly Shavua Tov slot, which goes out from Israel at 6 p.m. for more general discussions about the weekly parasha, about days of note in the Torah calendar, and other timely subjects. And from time to time I will address specific wider ranging subjects, and this will enable us in our daily kollel studies on Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays out from Israel at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, to continue with our in-depth learning based upon the texts. And for that reason, without any further ado now, I would like to begin my discussion of the book of Daniel. Shalom. Today, the 26th of Tammuz of the year 5776, corresponding to the 1st of August of the year 2016. We'll continue with our study of Daniel today, where we left off last time, just with we had concluded with Daniel's explaining to Nebuchadnezzar what was the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had but had forgotten. And now in chapter 2, in verse 36, we have the transition from Daniel's explanation of what the dream was to now his interpretation of the dream. And today we shall go rapidly through the actual text of Daniel, and spending more time afterwards on the commentary of the invaluable commentary on Daniel that we have from Rabbi Saadiah Gaon, the 10th century outstanding sage, about whom more in a little while. But here to go from verse 37 onwards, Daniel addresses the king, Ant Malko Melech Malchayo. You are the king of kings. Nebuchadnezzar was a world emperor. Di Elo Shemayo Malchuso, Chisno V'Sokpo V'Yikoro Yahavloch. You are the king that the God of heaven has given a powerful, mighty, and glorious empire, glorious kingship. One thing I'd like to note on verse 37, the opening words, Ant Malko Melech Malchayo, is that to many who are familiar with the Hebrew Shabbos Zemirot, the songs of the Shabbos tables, the very much beloved song Kah Ribon, God, the ruler of the earth, is replete with phrases taken from the book of Daniel. The Kah Ribon song sung by many on Friday nights at the Shabbos table. Kah Ribon actually is made of a weave of expressions from the book of Daniel, of which one of the first is the words in verse 37, Ant Malko Melech Malcha, you are the king of kings, and that in Daniel was addressing Nebuchadnezzar, but Rabbi Yisrael Nagara, the author of the Kah Ribon, has turned that as a praise to God. Ant hu Malko Melech Malcha, you are the king of kings. And God willing, in the third section of today's session, with our Torah inspiration section, I would like to share with you a very beautiful melody of the Breslover Hasidim for the Kah Ribon song, and I shall be displaying on the screen for you the entire text of Kah Ribon in Hebrew, as we will go through the words later on. But for now, let us focus on Daniel's explanation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and he tells him, you're the king of kings, that God has given you this mighty empire, and everything, every place where human beings dwell, and the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, God has put them in your hand and has put you in control of all of them. Nebuchadnezzar was clearly on the mystical level, at the very keter, the crown of the forces of the so-called other side, the impure forces. He had his hand everywhere, control over everything. And you, Nebuchadnezzar, says Daniel, you are the head of this statue, the golden head of the statue that you saw. We shall be coming soon to the Perush, the interpretation of Harav Saadiah Gaon, which is totally invaluable. But let us follow the explanation of the dream. Daniel chapter 2 verse 39. Daniel is now, as I said, going in this sweep of history and taking us through one after the other the great empires of the world. Verse 39, and after you there shall arise another kingdom which will be lesser than you. We see there is a steady decline in these these empires. After all, Nebuchadnezzar was worthy of the Almighty sending him a dream, showing him till the very end of times, and we do not hear about such things from the emperors of the later emperors. So Nebuchadnezzar was the top, and lesser than him was the coming Malchut, the coming empire, and then there would be a third after that, which would be corresponding to the bronze, and this third empire will rule over the whole earth. And then will come the fourth, which will be strong as iron, because iron has the power to grind up and to destroy everything. And so this fourth empire, now the empires, there was Nebuchadnezzar's empire is the head of gold, the chest and the two arms, that, as we shall learn from our commentators, that is the empires of Media and Persia that conquered Nebuchadnezzar and arose after him, and they were brother nations, the Persians and the Medes. It was the Median king Darius that destroyed the Babylon in the time of Belshazzar, as we shall be hearing, and his son-in-law Cyrus the first of Persia was his ally. So that now after that comes the third empire, the second empire of the Persians, the Medes. That was the chest and the arms of silver. The third is the bronze. That, as we should be hearing, is corresponding to the empire of the Greeks. And this fourth empire now is the empire that took over from the Greeks, and that is the Romans, which, as we shall be hearing, is actually a hybrid of Edom and Ishmael. Verse 41, as far as you're having seen the feet and the toes, the fingers of the feet, that partly they were of earthenware and partly they were of iron. This, says Daniel to Nebuchadnezzar, verse 41, comes to indicate that this shall be a split kingdom. And it will have all the power of iron, but what happens when you mix iron with earthenware? There is a weakness that comes into it. And Daniel elaborates in verse 42, the fingers or the toes of the feet, partly of iron and partly of earthenware. And that comes to indicate that this will be in kingdom, an empire that will be partially powerful, but partially very fragile. Now here, there's very much relating to what is going on in the world around us. I shall already jump ahead to how Rav Saadiah Gaon will explain to us that the iron is the element of Edom and the earthenware is the element of Ishmael. And we do see today how they are in an uneasy alliance with each other. So all this was seen over 2,400 years ago by Daniel. And he says, in verse 43, as to your having seen the iron mixed up with the earthenware, the clay, they will be mixed up with the seed of man. Rav Saadiah Gaon will tell us that means that they will be intermarrying. And however, and we see this exactly going on in the streets of Europe today and the streets of America, the violence between these two communities from Edom and Ishmael. They cannot attach to one another. They just do not get on and attach with one another, just like iron does not is not able to mix and to join up with earthenware. And then verse 44, the verse of very great hope for us. Verse 44 of chapter 2 of Daniel, and in their days, at the end of this joint empire of Edom and Ishmael, the God of heaven will raise up a malchut, a kingdom, a kingship that will never be destroyed forever. And this malchut, this kingship, this rule will never be given over to any other nation. And this new malchut that God will raise up at the end of time, this malchut will grind up and put to an end all of those other empires that were before. And this malchut shall endure forever. And Daniel explains the part of the dream that alludes to this, verse 45, all the while that you saw that out of the mountain there was hewn out the stone, not by human agency, not by hands. And this stone was what grinds down the iron and the bronze and the earthenware and the silver and the gold. And the Almighty is explaining to the king what shall be after this. And the concluding words of Daniel in the end of verse 45, V'yatziv chelmo u'meheman pishrei. The dream is established and the interpretation is believable, it's faithful, meheman. So here we have this amazing dream, the idea of an enormously tall statue is very typical of Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. Babylon had been the place of the Tower of Babel, which is intended to go right up to the heavens, and so too were what Nebuchadnezzar had seen in his dream was this immense statue. We shall see in chapter 3 how Nebuchadnezzar wanted to make such a statue and have everybody worship it. But here in chapter 2, in the dream, the statue is a message from the Almighty about the kingdoms. Well, it's here that I would like to give an introduction to Rabbeinu Saadiah Gaon, for this is, we are immensely privileged to have the interpretation of Rabbi Saadiah Gaon on this work on the book of Daniel. I have it printed here in my edition of Daniel, and I'm just pulling up some information in front of me as I speak to you about Rabbi Saadiah Gaon, who was born in Egypt in approximately the year 882. And he passed away in Baghdad in Iraq in 942. So that's a lifetime of not more than somewhere between 50 and 54 years. He was a most prominent rabbi, a Jewish philosopher, and an interpreter of the Talmud of the end of the period of the Gaonim. And he was active in the Abbasid Caliphate. He was the first important rabbinic figure to write extensively in Arabic, and he is considered to be the founder of Judeo-Arabic literature. He's known for his works on Hebrew linguistics, on halakha, on Jewish philosophy, and he was one of the more sophisticated practitioners of a well-known philosophy school known as the Jewish Kalam, and this is reflected in his philosophical work, the Book of Beliefs and Opinions, in which he attempted to integrate Jewish theology with components of Greek philosophy. Rabbi Saadiah Gaon was also very active in his opposition to the Karaites and in his defense of rabbinic Judaism. So clearly a pivotal figure who lived about a century before the prince of the biblical commentators Rashi, who of course was aware of Rabbi Saadiah Gaon. And I would like now to turn to Rabbi Saadiah Gaon's commentary on this part of chapter 2 of Daniel, where Daniel explains to King Nebuchadnezzar what this dream is all about. And let me mention before I go on into this that the whole concept of these malchuyot, of these empires, is well known in Jewish Kabbalistic thought. It's taken for granted in the Holy Zohar that these empires succeeded one another, and that at the end of days it would be a hybrid of Ishmael and Esav, Edom together, that would be dominating the world. So, looking at Rabbi Saadiah Gaon's commentary from verse 37 onwards, the actual explanation of the dream, he says, when Daniel says to Nebuchadnezzar, "You are the head of gold," this refers to the empire of Babylon. You are the golden head that you saw in the statue you dreamed of, and just like the head is superior to the whole body and above the body, so gold is superior to all kinds of metals, and so are you superior over all of the kings of the earth. Nebuchadnezzar was clearly a pivotal figure, and often nothing was he the one that was appointed by God to destroy King Solomon's temple. Indeed, Nebuchadnezzar is said to have no survivors, no descendants that ever converted to the Torah, unlike Sennacherib's descendants who studied Torah in Israel and converted, and other descendants. But Nebuchadnezzar was completely thrown out, as we shall see in the continuation of the book of Daniel. Now, continuing on, he says that after Nebuchadnezzar, just as silver is less than gold, so too will be the kingdom of Media. And he then goes on to the third, which he will come back to Persia and Media, but he tells us that the third level, that is the lower part of the torso, the belly, which was of bronze, says Rav Saadiah Gaon, that is the Empire of Greece, who are hard like bronze. They certainly were very harsh to the Jews in the Hasmonean period and the Second Temple period, with their attempt to impose Greek culture on the Jews and to, God forbid, eliminate the Torah, which they failed in. But this was what they were trying to accomplish, this domination over Israel. Now, on verse 40, Rabbeinu Saadiah Gaon tells us that, let us follow him carefully. He says, this fourth empire, his first words are, this is Aram. Aram would be the whole area of eastern Turkey, northwest Iraq, northeast Syria, the whole area of Eve HaNahar, the other side of the river Euphrates. But Aram in rabbinical terminology has a number of different connotations. Sometimes it would appear that the commentators used it as an allusion to Rome, and on this we'll be hearing more from Rav Saadiah Gaon presently. The connection is that the Roman Empire, while it started off in Rome and Italy, actually in the time of the Emperor Constantine, moved over to Constantinople, Istanbul, and that would very readily be associated with Aram geographically, and therefore Aram is sometimes used as an allusion to the Roman Empire, particularly in rabbinical literature that came out during the period of the Roman oppression, when they had to be careful about what they said, and so too in subsequent Jewish history. So these are the first words of Rabbeinu Saadiah Gaon, that this fourth Malchut is that of Aram. And now he goes on to tell us that the statue had this base of metal, the lower part of it, but it's mixed up with the pottery. And he says that the first kingdom of all was Babylon, which was gold. Then came Media and Persia, who divided the empire between them. And each one ruled over half of the empire. And this, he says, is alluded to in verse 32 of our chapter 2 of Daniel. He says that the chest and the arms were of silver. So there are two elements. There's the chest and the arms. So the chest, says Rabbi Saadiah Gaon, alludes to the kingdom of Media, which indeed had present in it sages of the Torah and people with a heart, as he puts it. And he says the heart is in the chest. Now the arms refers to the kingdom of Persia, with which we are familiar from the scroll of Esther, who were powerful in war, very powerful people, Ba'alei Zeroah, with a strong arm. The third, he says, the third kingdom of bronze, as we find in Daniel's prophecy, that the loins were of bronze. These loins and the thighs, these refer to the people of Greece and of Macedonia, from which came, of course, Alexander the Great. And Saadiah Gaon names him specifically here, says this alludes to the king of Greece known as Alexander, and Alexander was the king of Macedonia, in Hebrew Mokedon, and they were harsh as bronze, and they ruled over the whole world. Now the fourth, he says, is strong as iron, as it says that the thighs were, the shins were of iron. And now Rav Saadiah in his commentary at this point elaborates on what is Aram. He says some of the commentators say that this is the kingdom of Aram. And he says, in my opinion, this is not the case, because if we say that this is Edom, which apparently he's associating with Aram, if we say this, he says, where is the kingdom of Ishmael? In other words, he's saying that we have a tradition that the end of days will be a hybrid of Edom and Ishmael. So if you associate the fourth kingdom only with Aram, where is Ishmael? And he says, in fact, the interpretation is that he goes with is that this fourth empire, fourth kingdom, will be divided and split between the two. He calls them Pritzim. Pritzim is the sort of robber baron leaders, the pirates of the Polish aristocrats that ruled over the Jews were the cruel landowners. So he calls these two Pritzim, Aram and Ishmael, namely Edom and Ishmael. Aram is strong like iron. Ishmael is like pottery. This fits with the Kabbalistic concept that Edom is the left arm corresponding to Gevurah, and Ishmael is the right arm with the attribute of Abraham, or in its unholy form represented by water. So Saadiah is saying that Daniel's dream and the iron and the earthenware, this is Edom and Ishmael. And a second reason for this, is, for supporting this interpretation, is because the dream does not refer to 5 kingdoms. He doesn't speak about a fourth and a fifth. And when he says that the feet and the toes are a mix of iron and earthenware, he is saying that they will be iron and clay. He's saying that they will be partly attached, but they will not be attached, not able to mix with one another. Now, on verse 43, I think Rav Saadiah Gaon has a very important and interesting observation to make. And this is, he says that the text reads on verse 33, the Aramaic, in the middle of the verse, it says, Misoravin lehevon bizra anosho. This iron and clay will be mixed with the seed of men. Well, what exactly does that mean? Rav Saadiah Gaon says that they will be mixed up with them of the seed of Israel who will be dwelling among them. Well, now, this could mean one of two things. One, that there is the Israelites who are in exile among these nations, but I think most interestingly, he's also suggesting that there are seed of Israel who are intermarried with them, which would fit in very well with those who theorize that the leading elites of Europe and Britain have some mix of Israelite blood somewhere. And this is seen in cases like Winston Churchill, who is said to have had, I believe, a Jewish grandmother, and they even claim that the German tyrant of the Nazis, Hitler, was an illegitimate offspring of some Rothschild. So here we see this Rav Saadiah Gaon over 1,000 years ago telling us about this. I would like just to emphasize that our other commentators are fully in agreement with Rav Saadiah's interpretation of this Daniel. Our most straightforward presenter of the simple meaning of our biblical text is the commentary of the Metzudat David, printed in the Mikraot Gedolot of the Tanakh, and the Metzudas on the verse 44, in their days, namely the days when the kingdom of heaven will smash down these terrestrial kingdoms. The Metzudas also says quite straightforwardly, in the days of these kings, which are the Malchut Ishmael v'Ramilus, the kingdoms of Ishmael and Romulus. And so clearly Romulus, that's an allusion to Rome, namely to Edom. And Rashi confirms the same view in his commentary on this chapter. And Rashi, in his comment on verse 44, says quite straightforwardly that these kings refers to the kingdom of Rome. Now, Rome is, of course, the Vatican is the single largest financial player in the whole world, and the influence of Rome in apparent and hidden ways spreads across Europe and the Americas and eastwards. And so when we're speaking about Rome and Edom, we're speaking about them in this very extended form. So here we will conclude with our study of Daniel for today, and be coming back to Rav Saadiah Gaon's explanation of the dream in our next session. And we'll now take a break before we come to our next session today, which will be in our study of the Mishnah of Sanhedrin. Shalom again, shalom, and now we will continue with our studies of today. And we now go over to our study of the Mishnah. Today, 26th of Tammuz of the year 5776, corresponding to the 1st of August of the year 2016, we come to the study of the second chapter of Tractate Sanhedrin, and our tractate follows on from the subject we were dealing with in the previous chapter, chapter 1, which was talking about the constitution of the different law courts, the law court of 3 dayanim, 3 judges for monetary cases, the Sanhedrin Ktana of 23 for cases involving capital offenses up and down the country, and other more serious issues. And then the Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin of 71 members, seated in the temple by the side of the temple courtyard in Jerusalem. And we now come to the other 2 levels of authority in the world of the people of Israel, these being the high priest and the king. And these are the 2 figures that we shall be hearing about in our chapter today. And the connection with the previous chapter is that there arises the question of the authority of the king and the high priest to judge in legal cases and to be judged. And this is what our first Mishnah of chapter 2 now opens with, speaking first about the laws of the high priest. Kohen Gadol Don, V'donin Oisoi. A high priest is empowered to act as a judge. He could and most likely would be a member of the great Sanhedrin if he was a competent Torah scholar. V'donin Oisoi. They would judge him if he had committed some offense that he had to be chastised for. He would be taken before the court, and the court would be only the great Sanhedrin of 71 members, his being such an important figure. And he could even be punished, for example, with the punishment of lashes, were that called for. Me'id. He is allowed to function as an aid, as a witness in a legal case. He could be summoned and required to give testimony. It would not be beneath his dignity to go to the court. U'me'idin oisoi. Witnesses could step forward against him were it necessary that witnesses had to testify to some lapse on his part. They should not be fearful that they may not, it's not constant with his authority and the respect due to him to give testimony against him if necessary. Choyleitz. Here we come to the law of the levirate marriage, where if a man died without children and the man's wife would be required either to be married to the dead man's surviving brother, or if not, if he did not intend to marry her, then he would have to go through the ceremony of chalitza. Chalitza, which is in our text here, choyleitz. This is where the surviving brother, if he is not going to to marry his dead brother's wife, then he stands there, she removes his shoe, she spits towards him and makes the declaration as in the Torah in Parashas Kiseitze towards the end of Deuteronomy. So for the high priest to give chalitza to his dead brother's widow, he'll be allowed to do that. And likewise, if the high priest died without children, his wife could receive chalitza from the dead high priest's surviving brother. Umeyatmin es ishtoi, a high priest that died without children, his wife could go through the full levirate marriage. In other words, the high priest's surviving brother could marry her. Avol hu enoi miyabim. However, if the high priest had a brother that died childless, the high priest could not marry his dead brother's widow because, as the Mishnah goes on to explain, mipnei shehu asur ba'almona. The high priest, as the Torah tells us in Leviticus at the beginning of Parashas Emor, is forbidden to marry a widow. A regular priest, not the high priest, may marry a widow, but the high priest himself is forbidden to marry a widow since the wife of the dead brother is a widow. The high priest cannot marry her, and for that reason cannot perform the mitzvah of yibum. He would have to give her the chalitza, and that would not be considered beneath his dignity to have her take off his shoe and spit in his direction. Now we come to the laws of mourning for a priest that had lost a relative. Meis lo meis. If a close relative, one of the 7 that other people are required to go into avelut, mourning for, if one of these categories, his mother, father, son, daughter, brother, unmarried sister, and his wife, the high priest does not go to the funeral. The high priest has to be on a great separation from the whole concept of the physical side of death. Eino yoitze achar amito. He does not go out after the bier. Elo hein nichsin vehu nigle. But they are going to be hidden and then he may appear. In other words, a funeral procession is going through the streets of Jerusalem, and only when the people who are carrying the aron, the stretcher of the body, only when they become hidden because they've entered another street, v'hu nigla, then he may appear on that street where they were, as long as he maintains a separation, so he will not come near to possibly defiling himself through contact with the dead body. Hein niglin v'hu nichse. If they appear, if the people carrying the coffin appear, then he's going to have to hide himself until they disappear. V'yotzei imohen ad Pesach shar ho'ir. He may go out with them, in other words, after the funeral procession, right up to the entrance to the city of Jerusalem. Divrei Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer eno yoytze min hamikdash. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the high priest should not even go out of the temple. Shenemar, as it says, the Torah says, umin hamikdash lo yoytze. The Torah in Deuteronomy chapter 21 says the high priest does not go out of the temple. Well, now we come to the role of the high priest when it comes to offering condolences. Ucheshehu menachem acherim. When the high priest will go, as it is a mitzvah, to pay a visit of condolence to others who are in mourning. So let me just get our text into a better focus for you to see the see the whole text here of the coming Mishnah. So, Kishehu Menachem Achirim, when he's going out to offer condolences to others, Derech Kol Ha'om Oivrin Bozeh Achar Zeh, literally the words of the way of all of the people at this ceremony of condolence, the way of all the people is going to be, they're going to be passing one after the other. Now there's a couple of possible interpretations of what the Mishnah is talking about here. One simple interpretation would be that he has gone to pay his respects at a Shiva house where the people are in mourning for 7 days. But the Bartanura explains here that after the funeral is complete, after the interment is complete, the immediate relatives of the departed person pass through rows of people who have come to be with them for the funeral, who have come to comfort them. And here Bartanur explains that when the mourners are there to receive their condolences from the people present, Derech Kol Ha'om Oivrim B'zeh Achar Zeh, the people will be passing one after the other, filing past the mourners. V'hamamune, now this refers to the deputy high priest. The mamune, he is appointed over the other priests. He is the deputy. If something happened to the high priest, he would take over, and he is his second in command. Mamatzoi beinoi levein ha'am. He's going to intervene between the high priest and the people at this ceremony of condolences in order to retain the dignity of the high priest, not to get mixed up with all of the other people. If the high priest were receiving condolences from others, all of the people would be saying to the high priest, "We are your atonement. Let us atone for you." Just as the high priest's function is to atone for the people are taking this upon themselves. Vehu omer lohen, Hisboruchu min hashamayim, he says to them, "May you be blessed from the heavens." Okshe mavrin oisoi, when they offer the meal of condolences, which is customarily brought out by neighbors when mourners return from the funeral, and they are not to eat of their own food for the first meal after the funeral, there is what is called Su'udat Havra'ah, the Su'udah of consolation, of bringing back health. Kashemavrin oisoi, we're offering the high priest such a meal of condolence if he had lost some member of family. Kol ha'am mesubin ala oretz, all of the people will be sitting on the ground in mourning. V'hu meisiv ala safsal, he's going to be sitting on a higher level on a safsal. In Hebrew today, a safsal is a bench. So far the laws of the high priest, and now we come to the laws of the king. Chapter 2 of Sanhedrin, Mishnah 2. Hamelech loydon v'loydonin oisoi. The king does not take part in the proceedings of Bet Din, a rabbinical court, nor would he be summoned before them. Lo me'id, he would not give testimony in a legal case. V'lo me'idin oisoi, people would not come to give testimony against him. Now, Arav Bartanura, the commentator, explains that this Mishnah refers to a king who was not of the house of Judah. There were other kings, other political powers in Eretz Yisrael at different times. For example, in the times of the Second Temple, there was the dynasty of the Chashmonaim, who were priestly families. They were not from the tribe of Judah. And the law of the Chachamim, our sages, was that they would not try to involve such a political entity in the legal system of the Sanhedrin, because it could prove to be dangerous, indeed lethal, as happened indeed in the times of those sages in the Second Temple, where many sages were massacred because they went out trying to judge the kings of that period. Now, the king has to have a special dignity, and the laws of the king are derived both from Parashas Shoftim in Deuteronomy, but also from the book of Samuel, where Samuel is appointing King Saul as the king, and he's telling the people what are the powers of the king. And there is a special dignity and special power of the kings we shall see in the continuation of this Mishnah. Lo choletz, the king does not undergo the ceremony of chalitza. If the king's brother had died without children, the king would not submit to having his shoe taken off by his dead brother's widow, because that is not consonant to his dignity that she would spit towards him. V'loi cholsim leishtoi, he would not, if the king had died childless, his widow also would not undergo the ceremony of chalitza. That is not considered to be consonant with the dignity of the departed king. And we see that from the woman's point of view, she would be left as what is called an aguna. She would be anchored. She would not be able to get married. That would be her situation after the death of the king. Lo miyabem. A king would not perform the mitzvah of Yibum, says the Tanakama, the first Tana of our Mishnah. He would not marry his dead brother's widow if the dead brother had died childless. The king's widow, if the king died childless, would not undergo the levirate marriage with the king's surviving brother. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im rotz lahaloitz oliyabem zochel tov. Rabbi Yehuda says that if the king were to desire to perform either the mitzvah of chalitza, to let the brother's widow off the hook, or liyabem, to perform the levirate marriage, zochul tov, he'll be remembered for good. That will be a mitzvah on his part. But the other sages say, Omru loy ein shomin loy. We do not listen to a king who said, I'm willing to undergo chalitza or yibum. No, we do not allow that, because it's simply not consonant with his dignity. We cannot, nobody can marry the dead king's widow. Let's now go to over the page, and I'm going to refocus to make the text, I hope, a little larger for you. So to continue now with this Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Noise HaMelech al Menosoi Shel Melech. The king may marry the widow of another king. That will be not in consonant with his dignity. For so we find with King David that King David married the widow of King Saul. Shene'emar, as it says in Samuel 2, chapter 12, Vo'etenu lecho es beis adonecho ve'es neshei adonecho b'chikecho. God says to David through the prophet, I have given you the house of your Lord, namely Saul, in whose service David was initially, and the wives of your Lord in your embrace. So now we come to look at the laws of mourning as they relate to the king. Meis loy meis, if the king undergoes a bereavement, he does not go out of the palace. It would not be consistent with the dignity of the king to leave his palace. Rabbi Yehuda says, if the king wanted to go out after the funeral procession after the mitah is a bed, namely the bier, the coffin, he may go out. Shekein motzin v'David, for so we find with King David, sheyotza achar mitoso shel Avner. King David did go out after the bier of Avner. Avner had been the commander-in-chief of King Saul, and when Saul was killed on Mount Gilboa, after a period where Avner tried to make King Saul's surviving son the king, finally King David grew in ascendancy with his commander-in-chief Yoav ben Tzeruya, and Yoav ben Tzeruya wanted to eliminate Avner. King David did not want to. King David wanted reconciliation, but Yoav ben Tzeruya did entrap Avner in the gate of the city of Hebron, as is related in book of Samuel, alluded to, and killed him. And David wanted to dissociate himself from the act of his own commander-in-chief. And for that reason, when the funeral of Avner took place, King David did go out after the bier as a mark of respect. And Shene'emar, as it says there in second book of Samuel, V'hamelech David hoilech ahrei amito. King David was going after the bier. Amru loi, but they said back to Rabbi Yehuda, who has just cited this verse from Samuel to support his stand that the king may choose to go out with a funeral. The other sages argued back, Lo hoyo hadovo elo lefayes es ha'am. This matter was only in order for King David to appease the people. He wanted to soothe everybody's very ruffled nerves after that terrible assassination. So now we come again to the laws of what happens when a king has undergone a bereavement, and continuing then with the end of Mishnah 3, Okeshemavrin oisoi, when the people come to offer the meal of condolence after a funeral, as we had after his own loss, as we heard in the case of the high priest in the previous Mishnah, Kol ha'om mesubin al ha'oretz, all of the people would be seated upon the ground. V'hu meisev ala dargosh, he is going to be seated on the dargash. The dargash is a better level, a more dignified level of seating than the safsal that we heard that in the previous Mishnah the high priest would be sitting upon. Well, now Mishnah Dalet, we're going to come to the actual authority of the king in terms of the running of the country. The king is empowered with taking out the army to war, and this is what we shall hear about in the fourth Mishnah of chapter 2 of Sanhedrin. So let's just try to get this Mishnah in full focus for you. So Mishnah Dalet, Umoitzi lemilchemes reshus al pi bes din shel 71. The king is empowered to bring out the troops, the army, to a milchemet reshut. That is a war that is not incumbent on the nation as a mitzvah, unlike the war of against Amalek or the war against the 7 Canaanite nations, as I discussed yesterday, speaking about the authority of the Sanhedrin, who would decide upon when to adjudicate on when to go out for this kind of war, which had some strategic purpose but was not necessarily a mitzvah, the king has the power to bring out the troops to the war al pi beis din shel shivim be'echod, according to the mouth of the court of 71, the great Sanhedrin. The king is not empowered to go to war without consulting the supreme court of the nation. Well, now the king has to have the power to do certain things in order to continue with his business as a king running a war. So, uporitz lasos lo derech. The king is empowered to requisition land of private individuals to break through fields if necessary to make a road for his troops to advance on. Ve'ein memachin biyodo. They cannot protest against him. Derech amelech en lo shi'ur. The width of the road of the king has no measure. We know that from the laws of Shabbat that the minimum width of a public road is 16 cubits, about 8 meters wide. We know that a private path is 4 cubits wide. But the path of the road of a king can be any measure that is needed. Now, when it comes to war, if there is looting by his troops of the enemy, v'chol ha'om boizezin v'noisen fonov. All of the people can take the booty of the war, boizezin. They take the loot and they put it all before the king. V'hu noitel chelik boroish. The king has the authority to take his share first. Now, the Torah laws, as we find in Parashat Mishpatim, in book of Parashat Shoftim, in book of Deuteronomy, the law of the king, lo yarbo l'noshim. The king may not have a great many wives. Elo shmoina esrei. He can have 18, according to the polygamous rule of the Torah that we do not abide by in our time. Rabbi Yehuda Omer marbe u loy uvilvad she loy yehu mesiris es liboy. Rabbi Judah says that he may indeed have more than that as long as they do not turn his heart aside. Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu achas u mesiris liboy harei ze lo yiso'enu. Rabbi Shimon says even if he has one wife but she is likely to turn his heart aside, he should not marry her. If so, why does the Torah in portion of Shoftim say that he should not multiply wives, according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, that even if one was going to turn his heart aside, that's too many? So the answer is afilu ka'Avigail. Even if a woman was as righteous as Avigail, who was David's virtuous wife after the death of her husband Naval, as recounted in the end of Samuel 1, afilu ka'Avigail, even a woman that righteous, the king may not take her in excess of how many the Torah allows him to have. Lo yarbe lo susim. A king is not allowed to have vast amounts of horses. Elo chedei mirkafto, only as much as is needed for his own chariot and, of course, for his own his own mounted troops. V'chesev v'zov lo yarbe lo ma'od. The purpose of the king is not to multiply a great deal of silver and gold. Elo chedei litein afsanyo. The king has to make sure he provides for his troops and for the needs of the kingdom, but that's all. He's not supposed to enrich himself. And here the key in the laws of kings, v'koisev loy sefer Torah lishmoi. He writes for himself a Torah scroll for the sake of the mitzvah. There is a mitzvah incumbent upon the king, as brought there in the portion of Shoftim in Deuteronomy chapter 17. He has to write his own Torah scroll as king, and that is what leads him and guides him. When the king goes out to war, they take it out with him. Nichnos, when he comes back, machniso imo, he brings back the Torah scroll with him. Yoshev badin, when the king is sitting in judgment, who he imoy, the king's Torah scroll is going to be with him. Meiseiv, he kenegdoi, when the king is seated in his meal, the Sefer Torah is before him. Shenemar, as the Torah says, the Torah says that the Torah scroll must be with him and he must read it. He must call down the names of God in the words of the Torah, as explained by Rabbi Nachman in Likutei Moharan, Part 1, Chapter Torah 56. He should call it all the days of his life. And finally, the last Mishnah of our chapter 2, Mishnah 5, Ein roichvin al susoi. It is not permitted to ride on the king's horse after the king, either in his lifetime nor after his death. It would be extreme mark of disrespect for some other person to ride the king's horse. People may not sit on the king's throne. It is not permitted to use the king's scepter, his mark of authority. It's not permissible for people to see the king when he's having his hair cut. The king must be groomed immaculately, but at his time of being groomed, people may not be watching. Not when he is without clothes. It's not in the bathhouse. Shenema, because the Torah says in the portion of the king in Parshas Shoftim in Deuteronomy, Soim tosim olecho melech. Surely put upon yourself a king. It is a commandment of the Torah, som tosim, the doubled verb. The som, the infinite, tosim, the imperative, a double verb here in the Hebrew, and this comes to allude, as the Mishnah learns out, shetehei emosoi olecho, the fear and the awe of the king must be upon you. And so we have today now concluded chapter 2 of the Mishnah of Sanhedrin, and with thanks to God, we succeeded in studying an entire chapter of the Mishnah in just a little over 30 minutes, and with God's help, we shall proceed in Sanhedrin in our next session. So, today, because of my technical problems, I was not able to devote the full length of time I would have liked to today's session, but as I promised you in the earlier part of our discussions today on the book of Daniel, I would like now to share with you a very beautiful melody for the very much beloved song of Kah Ribon, sung in many, many homes and gatherings of Shabbat meals across the world. Let me just, as I go through as I have the Hebrew text here in front of you, let me go through this text with you. God, Master of the universe and all the universes, you are the King of Kings, who works deeds of might and great wonders. How beautiful it is to tell your praises before you. I order my praises morning and evening to you, Holy God, who has created all of the souls, the angels, the holy angels, the sons of men, the wild beasts, and the birds of the heavens. How multiple and how mighty are your deeds. You bring down the mighty, you raise up those who are bent over. If a person could live for 1,000 years, he would not be able to begin to calculate your might. O God, the God to whom is fit the glory and the majesty. Redeem your flock from the mouths of the lions, and take out your people from exile, the people that you have chosen from all the nations. Return to your sanctuary, into the Holy of Holies, the place where the spirits and the souls rejoice, and they shall sing to you songs and praises in Jerusalem, the city of beauty. So the song has 5 Hebrew verses, and each one has as its initial letter successively the letter spelling out the name Yisrael, and after each verse, the first verse becomes the refrain, sung again after the second, third, fourth, and fifth verses. Kah Ribon Olam olamayo, antu malko melech malchayo, antu malko melech malchayo. Oy vad gevurteich v'simayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo. Shevo china sadir, tzafro v'damsho, lo chelo kadisho, kadisho, tivedo kul nafsho. Irin kanishin uvenayenosho, chivas berovo v'ofesh mayo. Kah Ribon Olam olamayo, antu malko melech malchayo, antu malko melech malchayo. Oy vad gvurteich v'simayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo. רברבין עובדך וזקיפין, מוכיח רמיו וזקף כפפן, וזקף כפפן, וזקף כפיפין. לא יחיה כבר שנין אלפין, לא ייול gevurteich bechos benayo. Kah Ribon Olam olamayo, antu malko melech malchayo, antu malko melech malchayo. Oy vad gvurteich v'simayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo. Elo dile ikar refuso, perok yas onach, perok yavavas anach, perok yas anach mipum aryevoso, v'yapek yas amech migogoloso, amech di v'charet mikol umayo. Kah Ribon Olam olamayo, antu malko melech malchayo, antu malko melech malchayo. Oy vad gvurteich v'simayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo, shvar kodomoch le'arvayo. למקדושך טוב ולקודש קודשים, עשרי ויחדון, עשרי ויחדון, עשרי ויחדון, רוחין ונפשין. ויזמרון לך שירין ורחשים בירושלם קראתו דשופריו. יא ריבון עולם ויעלמיו, אנטו מלכו מלך מלכיו, אנטו מלכו מלך מלכיו, אויב כבודך וזמחיו, פקודמו להוויו, פקודמו להוויו. The very beautiful Kah Ribon from the Zemirot of Shabbat, the table songs of the Holy Shabbos, woven from many phrases from the Aramaic text of the book of Daniel. And with that, we'll be concluding today's session. And with the help of God, I will be back on Wednesday. Our weekly schedule is to have the Kollel sessions on Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, starting Israel time, 4 p.m. Thank you for being with me today, and I wish you a continuation of your day or your night, wherever you are. Shalom from the holy city of Yerushalayim.
יכלס הכל אוי 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 לבד אוי מלך נעלו והוא הויה והוא יהיה בספרו ויין השייני איי 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 להמשיל אלה להחבירו בלרשיס בלסחליף בלעז והמזרו והוא אלי וחי גיילי איי 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 וצוחב לבסורו והוא נשאו מנה אצלי מנוס קייסי ביום הקרוב ביודעי אף כדרוכי איי 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 ויעזי שנה ואוהרה וימלוכי גבי עשי השם לב אליירו נאי 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 la 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 na na
Mag Shivai Sodom.